We talk about self-worth in general. What happens oftentimes with low self-worth is you don't filter out the people you should. And you end up in these same relationships of being taken advantage of or being talked down to or being controlled or whatever it may be.
Someone who's not toxic, just to describe that before we go, is someone who works with you, not against you. Someone who supports who you aspire to be rather than subconsciously subverts who you aspire to be.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode number 1270. People aren't as confident as you think. Today, for episode number 1271, one way to tell if your relationships are toxic. Stick around, because I'm going to kick it to Alan, and he's going to talk.
What's happening, man?
This was your idea, so I figured you can go into where this all came from. I cannot take credit for this, except I would if you weren't here, but you're here, so I can't take credit for it.
So, coaching, lots and lots of different people, different countries, different backgrounds. We've talked about it. I have a very interesting perspective. And one of the reasons why I think I love coaching so much is because it gives me such a deep look into so many different lives that it helps me understand that, again, we talk about this often, it's not a you thing, it's a thing. And that's been really important for me to realize, because a lot of the challenges that I face in life, I used to think it was just me. I used to think it was just me who went through this stuff. And that's a really cool thing about having a podcast and interviewing people and behind the scenes, front of the scenes, social media, clients, all that. You realize that even people across the world literally are going through similar things. And so this one way to tell if your relationships are toxic, the first thing to understand here is that you are not alone in terms of having toxic relationships in your life. And the first thing I want to share is it's like a glass of water. No glass is fully clear, meaning fully positive, fully constructive. And then no glass is fully mud, which is fully toxic, fully poisonous, for lack of better phrasing. It's a spectrum, 0 to 10. How toxic is the relationship? And so a 0 means a completely clear glass of water. This person's never hurt you. This person's never lied to you. This person's never been deceitful. This person has no junk that they've ever gotten on you. They've never overreacted. It's not really real. No one's at 0. And then no one's really at 10 either. It's usually somewhere in between. And so I had this client once, and when I first start onboarding a client, I'm always trying to gauge the person's, places, things, and ideas that are holding this person back. What someone comes to me for is what they want, which I want to make more money, I want a better body, I want a better business, I want whatever. What they really need is to look inside and to be unleashed or unlocked in some new capacity that helps them dial up their greatness and really, more importantly, get rid of the person's, places, things, and ideas that are toxic. You can take the strongest tree in the world and plant it in soil that is toxic, and it's not going to grow. You can take a tree that's not that strong and put it in really healthy environment, persons, places, things, and ideas, rain, sunshine, whatever, nutrients, insert botany nutrients here, and it's going to grow. And so my goal in my coaching is to help my clients achieve their goals, and in order to achieve their goals, they have to grow. And so if they are going to grow to their maximum potential, they have to get rid of the toxic. They have to get rid of the things that are tearing them down. The persons, places, things, and ideas. And the persons is first on that list for a reason. And so I've had several different clients. Usually, my clients are in a relationship. I primarily coach women, not always, but most of them are women. And usually when I'm talking to these people, I'm just sizing up and studying, like, okay, who are the people in their life that dial them up, light them up, empower them, give them positive feedback or constructive feedback, and then how many people in their life, or who in their life, I should say, is really toxic. And so this one person comes to me and she's like, I want to grow and I want to hit, 2 million in revenue, XYZ. And she actually shared with me her true north financial goal, her North Star financial goal, and it's very, very high. So this person, in order to achieve her goals, has to become the 1% of 1% of 1%. And so it's not an easy feat, and there's no way it's going to happen. And so here I am on the call, and in the back of my mind, I'm going, ooh, okay. So it's, from my perspective, it's going to be impossible to achieve that size of a goal with this partner. And I'll keep this anonymous, of course, but this partner is very toxic, very fear-based, very much conditional love, and very much codependent. In other words, when she grows, the relationship suffers. And she can't achieve her goal unless she grows. And so there's an inverse correlation between her being empowered and her relationship being successful. And so I'm like, oh no. And again, this is not a her thing. This is a thing that I see actually quite often, alarmingly so. And really what it is deep down is this partner's deeply insecure and afraid that this person's going to figure out her value and leave him. And in all honesty, my truth is that she should. And I essentially said this on the call. I said, listen, you're in a conditional love cycle. I drew this out for her on Zoom, and I said, here's what's happening. If you comply, so picture conditional love on the top of the page. If you comply, then you get love and approval. If you do not comply, an arrow going a different way, then you get your deepest fear poked. In this case, her deepest fear is essentially him holding the kids over her, or hurting the kids on some level, or making her look bad in front of the kids or whatever. And again, this is not a her thing. This is a thing you see often. And so anyways, that's a conditional love cycle. So over here on the left, you get love and approval, but you stay small and you stay stuck. And that is totally where we all are on some level with some relationships, okay? Or you face the deepest fear. You face the deepest fear and say, you know what? Even if that were to happen, I'm going to survive, and it's better than living in fear the rest of my life. And again, this story is an extreme example of this, but this happens with everything. And I'll give a tangible example that I think is super, super relevant. So I told Emilia, and this is the thing, in intimate relationships, it's very hard not to have conditional love because you care so deeply, and there's fears when you care. So when you care and love someone so much, it's like scary. And so a tiny example of a conditional love cycle that I tried really hard not to induce in my relationship with Emilia was when we first got together, I would notice that she would drive fast. And it scared me, not just for me being in the car, but because I don't want her to be unsafe. And so I essentially had to share vulnerably, like, listen, I love you. You're amazing. I don't want anything negative to happen to you. Statistically speaking, for young people, there's nothing more dangerous than a motor vehicle. And I think that you could drive safer. And I don't want to force you to. I'm not going to lash out at you if you don't. But I would feel better and my fears would be mitigated if you would drive safer. So but if you choose not to, that's your prerogative. And again, Emilia is not some reckless driver or anything. She's going a little over the speed limit, right? And I'm also, have some trauma around cars for obvious reasons. My father passed away in a car accident. I got in tough car accidents. My sister's been in many car accidents. So anyways, so obviously I have some fears around this area. And here's the thing. I don't want my fears to cage her and dim her light. So I have to be vulnerable and express my truth, but also say I honor your choice. And I got to do this with you too, Kev, in business, right? Like, I don't think that's the best choice, but if that's the choice you want to make, you got to find that line. And so to circle back to the original story here, she ended up actually facing her deepest fears, facing this person. And now, Kev, her PPT is on fire. She is the most, and I was on the phone with her not long ago, and I said, true or false, and I actually do this with my clients. I say, close your eyes. True or false, you are the most productive, effective, and fulfilled version of yourself that you have ever been. She said, true. And I usually do true, semi-true, false. And the reason we do that is to check in. Let's check in. Let's see where we're at. Gets a little interesting on the calls. But anyways, and here's why. she got the most toxic relationship. Not out of her life completely, but now she's in control. She's not stuck in a conditional love cycle anymore. She is no longer allowing the toxicity into her personal soil. And I've seen this time and time again. That's an extreme example, but in my own life, certain friends, bullies, making fun of me and all that kind of stuff, it's a thing. It's not a her thing. It's not a me thing. It's not a Kevin thing. This is a thing. And the question I wrote down is, where might you be still stuck in a conditional love cycle? And how do we help you identify and rectify that?
How do you know when you are? Like, what are, obviously you had some signs there, but it probably feels different for different people.
Yeah, so I'll give one more story that I shared on the Conscious Couples podcast that I think will land for how do you know. There was this one time when Emilia and I were first dating, and she wouldn't mind me sharing this because we've shared it publicly before, but we were about to go to the gym, and she's like, is it okay? Like, she was like, not shaking, but she was very concerned. Like, is it okay if I like go without a bra? And I was like, of course. Hell yeah. Nice. Like, perfect. But then I was like, oh, because past partners didn't want her to be sought after. She was very insecure, I think, really insecure past partners. I'm like, babe, you get to wear whatever you want. You don't worry about me. I love you. You choose for you. However, whatever you want to do, right? For me, it was like, hell yeah, perfect. But that's just an example of walking on eggshells. You asked me the question of like, how do you know when you're in a toxic relationship? How do you know when your relationship is toxic? You have to walk on eggshells. You feel like you can't fully be yourself. You're questioning your decisions all the time because you're afraid to be lashed out at. And these are the things that I want to share. It is important to realize that some of these people, they might mean well consciously, but I'm telling you, it's very subtle. It's these jabs that you get, you get made fun of, like whatever. It's like very subtle, but guilt trip. Here's another way you know that there's toxicity is when you get guilt trips. Guilt is something that people use often of like, what's a good example of a guilt trip?
I did all this for you and you don't care, or
yeah. And
I did all this and you didn't say thank you.
Anyone when you feel like someone's trying to control you, they're either giving you things because they want to control you, or they're taking things away because they're trying to control you, or they're giving you words of affirmation, but only when you're the way they want you to be. And this might be triggering for some of our listeners, so I want to give our listeners permission here. I've coached a lot of people. Very few humans are not in a toxic relationship, whether it's a family member or an intimate partner, or maybe a past intimate partner or a friendship. And I'll share this too. This is a different client, but I told her, I said, you're going to win. You're amazing. You're going to crush it. You're going to be so good. Your friends suck. And I know I'm not trying to be mean. They're just really toxic. They don't want to see you win at the level I do. And I'm not trying to say that they don't have any merit. I'm not saying they're like the worst people on earth. So let me not overcorrect here. They're insecure. They don't want you to know that. And they're subtly jabbing you whenever you go and do something that's outside of what they believe you should do. They kind of suck a little bit. And it's so hard to say that because it's like, well, those are my friends. She is winning now. She's really succeeding at a high level now. And she's really, and this is a different person, by the way, but this is a thing. And it's almost like, here's how you know, Kev, to answer your original question. If when you evolve, there's lash out in the relationship. If your friends make fun of you or make you feel bad when you grow, or when like, so, oh, I went and got a therapist. If my friend like made fun of me, that is toxicity. Instead of support, which is, oh, that's really cool. Like, and I'm in curiosity of like, what's that like? And how's that been? You know, I just almost teared up right there because I feel like I've been definitely mistreated by toxic people in the past when it comes to growth and trying to evolve and be better. It really comes down to subliminal, subconscious, conditional love where it's like you get approval and love, but only when you are what the other person wants you to be. And it's very subtle and it's very deceptive. And so hopefully this episode will help you identify it. And again, it's not 0 or 10. It's like, I'm sure those friends have some good things about them. When it comes to her goals and dreams, they're not good for her. But when it comes to having fun, maybe they're great, right? And so you gotta kind of compartmentalize, which is difficult.
My name is Nathan Schwermann. I'm from Lawrence, Kansas. I've been a client of Alan's for coming on 2 years now, and I really can't recommend his program enough. Alan's always there for me with great advice and holding me accountable every step of the way, and really leading by example. I've grown a lot in his program, but he's grown alongside with me, so I'd really recommend joining up on the program and joining the community.
This is an interesting episode. Well, for me, I just get to learn. I just get to sit here and learn, which is always good. That's always beneficial. But it just makes me think of like, reflect to my past. Like, what relationships did I have that were kind of like this? I don't think there was many, but I don't know, right? Like in the moment, you don't always know.
I think that it seems to me, reflecting, you didn't deal with this a ton. And if you did, you just left.
Yeah, I think that's my tendency.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you deal well with conditional love.
I don't like being controlled.
Yeah, that's for sure.
We were talking today about like, Kev, instead of buying a car, you should lease one. It's like, I don't like being controlled. I don't want anybody to tell me what to, like, I don't want the subconscious, like, well,
I
Kev,
wonder
you
where
should
that
do it
comes
this
from.
way.
That's so interesting.
I just want to do what I want. That's it.
Freedom is very important to you.
I think
good.
that I don't want any conditions. I think that's what it is. I want to create my own conditions for me. I think I've always wanted that, though. There's a reason I've left every job I've ever been part of.
Yeah.
The second the conditions didn't match what I wanted, it's like, oh, you have to work late. Nah, not going to do it. Not interested. I'm out. Find someone else.
There's a fine line.
Yeah,
there's definitely a fine line. But that's what
that.
it is, too. It's like someone who's not toxic, just to describe that before we go, is someone who works with you, not against you. Someone who supports who you aspire to be rather than subconsciously subverts who you aspire to be. Anyone, and this is actually the last thing I'll say, I promise, anyone who's arrogant, inwardly arrogant, essentially this is what it is. They think that they know what's best for you more than you do, which in a way is very arrogant, particularly people who are ignorant. Ignorant and arrogant is even worse, and those two come together quite often. But I would say if you're out there and you have a relationship where someone's really arrogant, and I had a friend once who was really into self-improvement, one of my first close friends who was into growth, and he said, "You want to know your problem? Right there." And he was pointing to one of my friends. And I was like, and by the way, in hindsight, very clear. Yeah, 100%. I would never, he just super conditional love, like very, very, very arrogant, thinks he knows best about everything, right? He's read every book and it's like, but your results though are like not good. And eventually you just kind of wake up from that. And I think that's a self-worth thing too, which we talked about in the last episode. But for our listeners, where might you still be stuck in a conditional love cycle? I think everyone is to some extent. And I try real hard, Kev, to never put you in one either. You know
I think you've done a great job. That's definitely rubbed off on me. I try to be that way with, again, part of my story is I wasn't, right? I had a partner who wanted to go chase their dreams and I didn't want them to. So it wasn't a recurring thing. It was very much like that one time. I just couldn't handle that level of uncertainty. So that person ended up leaving me as she should have. So I understand what it's like to be on that end. I haven't been on the other end much. In terms of
you just left. Most likely.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know.
But yeah, maybe not. Maybe not.
I don't know.
I also want to admit too, vulnerably, there was a short time in my life where I was extremely insecure, and with an ex-girlfriend, I was conditionally loving. And by the way, I actually think that high self-belief is the cure. When you have really high self-belief, it's almost like the unconscious permission for other people to be who they want, because you don't really... Unconditional love, think about it. I don't need you, I want you.
Yeah.
Versus conditional love is I need you. If I need you, now you have to stay with me, right? And it's unconscious, right? So at the end of the day, they do love you. They're just fearful and they don't believe in themselves.
Fire. It was a good episode.
Thank you, man.
Anything you want me to say?
Strong work, man.
Strong work, man.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. As if I did the whole thing.
Well, you did.
Although it was a lot of me.
Yeah, I was gonna say you did 90% of it. There wasn't much to say. I think I'm trying to do a better job of when you come with a topic, just let you go and then try to maybe fill in or ask questions. I just want the listeners to understand. That's why I asked that question. But I think reflecting on this episode, as hard as it may be, is always that's kind of the thing with us. Is like, I don't know if you're ever going to listen to an episode where it's going to be an easy listen. You know, it's never really easy. There's always something to do and there's always a potential new awareness. But again, that's growth. That's growth in a nutshell. And at the end of the day, and I can subscribe to this as well, because I've talked to many of the amazing members of the community, that one of the hardest parts of talking to the community is getting access to the behind the scenes real life, where you get to unfortunately see a lot of that. Yeah. Like, oh, your partner's not good for you. Oh my goodness. It's tough. It's heavy. It's heavy. I always say that on other podcasts. It's a very amazing opportunity, but it's a very heavy responsibility.
Yeah. And the key here is you're not alone.
Right.
I mean, everyone, seriously, to some extent, whether it's family or intimate or friend, is dealing with this. You're not alone. So there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Right.
I think that's the key, is like, I was dealing with this for years and years and years, for sure. And I didn't know. I had no idea. So I think the permission piece is more important than I used to realize. And that's one of the benefits of being a coach, is you start to see that this is not a me issue. This is like a thing that happens to pretty much everybody with different nuances.
Yeah. It helps. It definitely helps to see all the perspectives and how it shows up in life. And this is another interesting thing. Last thing I'll say before we go. Ask yourself, if you're in a partnership right now where this is happening, is it a pattern? Because when we talk about low self-worth, we talk about self-worth in general. What happens oftentimes with low self-worth is you don't filter out the people you should. And you end up in these same relationships of being taken advantage of, or being talked down to, or being controlled, or whatever it may be. So that's a whole nother topic, a whole nother episode we could dive into.
Would you be willing to quickly share you shared with me a story once about a partner who emotionally cheated on you?
Are you going to laugh at me again?
No. I'm so sorry.
No. I didn't mean that. Sorry. I was totally kidding.
It might as well be out of a sitcom, man. It was like brutal. Oh my God. We were in just a short story, monthly meetup. We were in a monthly meetup and I could not stop laughing, but that's because I know Kevin is funny and he deals with his traumas with comedy. So
even I started smiling the second you brought it up. It's like, all right, we're going to laugh about this. Here we go.
We're going to laugh about this one
Sorry,
day.
I interrupted you.
So essentially, my quick verbalization of it is Kev was emotionally cheated on, and he found out that, I can't get through it. It's so brutal. But anyways, she essentially said, if you leave, don't come back.
Yeah.
And Kev got to the car and just tucked his tail and went back.
I got to the car. This was like a scene from a movie. It's, if you leave here, don't bother coming back. So it's like, I don't even care. Watch me go. Right. You walk out the door. I'm walking up to my car. I'm like, this is F this. I am so done. Open up the door and it's like, interesting. Close the door, on the outside. Back into the house we go. Yeah.
And that's the self-worth issue, right?
100%.
To bring this home for the listeners, that's what low self-worth is manifested. Yeah. It's like you'll tolerate.
Can I get better? Can I even get a new relationship? Do I even deserve the one I have? Am I wrong? Am I missing something? Yeah, all that.
Am I wrong? The questioning self.
Yeah. Who else is going to love? Yeah, you kind of you self-destruct in a way.
Yeah, it's like the other person's trying to control you by saying things like, someone recently said that this person said, oh, you'll never find someone who cares about you as much as I do. It's like, that's manipulative a little bit.
Unless it's true.
Unless it's true, which is possible.
That's what we aspire to.
But how do they know? How would they know that?
Well, I aspire to that. I'll go toe to toe with anybody. Nobody will ever love Taryn as much as I do.
But this person that I'm thinking of,
I know. But that's what I'm saying. Is like, for
but
me,
you
when
would
I
never
say that,
that's the thing. It's
well,
certainly not in the toxic
not in
way.
that way. Not in that way.
Yeah.
No, not like, how dare you leave? Like, no. For me, it's more like I aspire to. Yeah, I don't ever want anybody to be able to come close. That's
One of
my
them's
goal.
aspirational. The other one is controlling and manipulative. And yeah, at the end of the day, you're not alone. You probably got triggered on this episode. If you did get triggered on this episode, it's because deep down you do know. I've been there, and I did know deep down. And later on, Kevin told me, and I said, I wish you had told me that earlier. And he was like, I tried, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
Get out of toxic relationships. Sail away the best you can, and build your self-worth and self-belief. And you can earn better. You can earn better.
I like that. Next Level Nation, we will be talking about awareness, and we are going to be talking about self-worth and self-belief at Next Level Live 2023, April 1st, Worcester, Mass. We are only selling 50 tickets. And if you want to get in a room with other people who are as focused on growth, other people who might be struggling or succeeding at the same things as you, please join us. Everything you need to know is in the show notes below.
Also, we're reading an awesome book called Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess. As a matter of fact, one of the episodes this week is going to be about that. Thinking, feeling, and choosing is what this book is built on. Book club is every Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We just surpassed our 102nd session in a row. It's a very, very awesome group of individuals who are like-minded. They're all listeners of this show. They're all people who want to get together and contemplate and learn and grow together. It really has become such a magnificent space. So if you want to check that out, at very least, this is what I would say. At very least, check out the landing page. And on the landing page, look at the books we've read. If those intrigue you, it's going to hold you accountable. It certainly holds me accountable to be reading consistently.
And if you are listening on Apple or whatever platform you are listening to, please click the subscribe button. If you're watching us on YouTube, what's happening? Also subscribe there. Tomorrow for episode number 1272. How much is your self-talk holding you back? We had a really, I would say, powerful breakthrough on our latest monthly event that we're going to share with you if you couldn't make it to the monthly event. As always, we love you, appreciate you, grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans, we have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Please reach out